Junkie Nation, gorgeous George and Goes delivering again. We got another MMA superstar. This time it's Colbey Northcutt. She is going to be fighting on the 4th card in April as one championship invades North America on TNT. Welcome, Colbey. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Are you fired? Thank you. Thanks for appearing on our show. Are you fired up? You're within a month of doing this thing. You know, I mean, this is big for one championship on TNT. I was just watching TNT, and they've been doing March Madness, NBA. So this is big for the promotion.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. They've been talking about coming to the U.S. market for a really long time now. So I'm really grateful to be on such a monumental card. I think it's huge, especially being on TNT. I can't wait.
Yep, this one goes down on the card that Colbey's on goes down on Wednesday, the 28th. Lasong will be headlining there in the heavyweight title bout. First of all, what other sports do you like? You're kind of a Houston person, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I love the Houston Texans, actually Dallas Cowboys. I like both teams, so I'll watch football. But my husband's a really big Patriots fan. So, and we are Tom Brady. So football's awesome. I don't actually watch too much basketball, even though I know that March Madness is on right now. Yeah. But obviously MMA is like the main focus in our household.
Okay. Well, I know you guys, you like all the sports, but I was just watching and Houston's one of the Final Four. So I didn't know if there was a big buzz around the city because of that.
I'm actually not in Houston anymore. Obviously, that's where I was born and raised. But I've been in Orange County now for a little over 4 years. So I am in California. Haven't been to Houston in quite some time. And then my parents actually moved over to Austin. So it's been a minute since I've been to Houston, but I got some good friends and stuff that are back there, and I'm sure they're real excited.
What part of Orange County?
Actually, the city of Orange.
Well, Goes and I were raised in Santa Ana, California for many years.
That's walking distance.
And now we live in Las Vegas. But yeah,
awesome.
the 714, the OC, you like it there?
That's right. I do. It's beautiful. You know, I will say though, from being from Houston, oh my gosh, Orange County, just California in general is so dang expensive. Everything is so expensive. I'm so used to those Texas prices with everything. So that was definitely an adjustment to get used to, but they say you pay for the weather. It is beautiful all the time.
Yeah, I heard some good weather is in California this week. I'm actually headed there after this interview. I'm driving through the night.
That's awesome.
To California, and I'm hoping to get down to the beach because I'm jealous of all my family and friends when they start posting stuff once the spring comes around.
Yeah, I live within maybe 10 minutes from the beach, and I never go down there ever. I've been to the beach maybe twice the whole time I've lived there, and it's definitely something I should do a whole lot more than what I currently do now.
In California, at least when I left it, a lot of the fighters that I knew would hit different gyms for different, martial arts. Right. And I want to ask you, what gyms do you visit for your training?
Yeah, currently my home in Orange County is the training lab. So I train with Bellator bantamweight champ Juan Archuleta, former UFC champ TJ Dillashaw, but mainly Sam Calavita. He is my nutrition, strength and conditioning coach, kind of runs everything down there. Mark Munoz is our wrestling coach. So that is my home in Orange County. Currently for this camp, I've had to make some changes due to COVID restrictions. I know that Southern California and the LA area has kind of been really strict with gyms and lockdowns and all sorts of stuff. So I've actually made a transition, and I'm kind of going back and forth from OC to Sacramento. I'm actually in Sacramento right now, and I've been spending majority of this camp up here at Alpha Male.
Gotcha. All right. And how do you like it? Do you see it possibly being a permanent move, or is this just while we deal with COVID?
Well, we do. I mean, COVID is the reason I'm up here now. There's a whole lot of factors that kind of went up into this this move for this camp. COVID sparked it. Basically, a lot of close training partners and friends and people that I would spend time with at the training lab were affected by COVID. And so it kind of, people are looking out and they have to take their own health and safety first. And so they want to protect their loved ones, their family, their kids, and things like that. So it does kind of limit the training partners that you have. And so now that I have an opponent and a fight scheduled, and I'm training for a specific opponent, I did make the move up here to Alpha Male because they have more bodies and more training partners available to me. Aside from that, my brother's up here, so it was an easy kind of transition, and I had a place to stay. And Uriah has been super warm and welcoming and allowing me to come up here and train with all of his guys. So I'm very grateful.
That's right. You'll be facing Silvonary M. I hope I pronounced her name right. That's Wednesday, April 28th. One championship is on TNT for the month of April, and this will be the 4th show that month.
Right.
Colbey Northcutt, I wanted to ask you, mention some big players in the game like Dillashaw, or Archuleta. Tell me something that you've learned from one of them, whether it was just words from wisdom or just training techniques. These people that have worn straps in major promotions. Have you picked up anything from being around those guys?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you kind of, they say that you kind of, you become who you surround yourself the most with, right? And they're obviously champs in their organization for a reason. So they have an incredible work ethic, an incredible drive, and train harder than anybody that I know. So when you constantly surround yourself with champs and people that are at the top, I mean, that's your goal, right? To be at the top. So they just embody that as an entire lifestyle inside and outside of the gym. So I'm grateful to be not only in 2 different gyms that have these types of champs and athletes, but that I get to train alongside them.
Colbey, what about your MMA soul? What are some of the things that are on that bucket list that you're hoping eventually will happen? We always hear the flying knee, flying triangle. Everybody has these scenarios. In your mind, what are some of those things on that MMA bucket list?
I mean, obviously I'm a striker, which is ironic that if you look at all my amateur fights, all of my finishes are by submissions. I mean, I do practice my jiu-jitsu, so a knockout's going to be the obvious. But if you want to look like, instead of just moves, long-term goals, I mean, I'm looking at, one is building their flyweight division. They don't currently have a women's flyweight MMA world champion. They're growing it, and they're expanding in all aspects, obviously as a promotion. So if you want to talk about goals, that's my goal, to help grow the division and to be the first women's one flyweight world champion.
And, early on in your career, I mean, well, you've been a martial artist your entire life, but at what point were you able to figure out, okay, this is now something that I can make a career out of, something that I can do as a job and be able to support myself? Because I know you went to school and you did other things, but I'm sure martial arts is something that's always been in your heart.
Right. That's a great question, actually, because when I was 18 and graduating high school, Rhonda wasn't in the UFC yet. And I always use her as an example because she kind of, I feel like, paved the way, obviously, for women's MMA. Gina Carano too, but when you talk about women's MMA in particular, there was no women's division in the UFC, and that was the goal. So there were talks. She was in Strikeforce. There were talks about, maybe Dana will let her in, maybe not. And it was kind of that decision I had to make ultimately of, do I go to school right now? Do I go to college and commit to an education, or do I want to pursue fighting? So that's what I did initially, is I took time off from school and I trained really hard, had several amateur MMA fights. Several years down the line, after all those MMA fights, I did eventually go back to school and get my degree while still training. But I did know that eventually, once Rhonda was in the UFC and several years later, things started picking up. While I was in school, I was like, okay, so I can actually make a career out of this and make money. So I got my degree, and that's when I decided to kind of put that aside and focus full time on training and making myself better.
Will there be any Lee and Northcutt friendly rivalry? I mean, I know there's some different weight classes here, but as far as like the successes and things like that, can you chase them down? They've done some pretty good stuff so far.
Angela and Christian are a pair of siblings that I really admire and look up to. I mean, they're doing right now, what Sage and I aspire to do, and that's be both of them at the same time, be the champs in their organization. First brother, sister ever to do that. that's the goal for Sage and I as well. I mean, it's always been really awesome to have a brother that fights, that grew up doing everything with me, and that we're in the same organization now. But absolutely, I mean, obviously me and Angela are in two completely different weight classes. She's an atom weight. So I don't foresee us ever crossing paths. Sage and Christian, I mean, it's a possibility. But yeah, they're two incredible martial artists that are extremely respectful and people that I look up to personally. And I know that Sage does as well.
For you, was one championship like the one destination you wanted to go to? I mean, I know it's going to be hard to say otherwise, but were you courted at all because of the family name, your brother's success? Did other organizations make a run at you before you decided to be a part of the one championship roster?
Yeah, if you would have told me, several years ago that I would be a part of one championship roster, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But then also that was at a time when Sage was in the UFC, and he didn't think that was a possibility for him either. So things are always changing. And if you say courted, I mean, I wouldn't say so. I am very grateful for the opportunity that one has given me, because if you look at, I'll use Angela Lee again as an example. She made her pro debut with one, so she was able to grow her entire career with the organization and to where she is now to become the champ. So they're basically doing the same thing with me. When they signed me, I only had one pro MMA fight. So let's be real. I don't see the UFC signing anybody with only one pro MMA fight unless you have like the rare exception of, CM Punk or whatever the case. But so I understand fully that I'm there because of my brother, and I'm very grateful for it. And I'm also grateful that they're giving me that opportunity to grow as an MMA fighter throughout my professional career, give me that opportunity to be the next Angela Lee, so to speak.
And going back to another question my brother asked you, what's your degree in?
Journalism, actually, communications. Funny story. That's actually what I would like to do if I wasn't fighting. It was actually be a broadcast journalist, specifically sports, MMA. I love what Misha's doing with one, how she's doing that stuff. And then Megan Levy is what I would love to do as well. She's like how she does all the commentary and stuff for UFC is fantastic. So that's actually what I would like to do.
Well, you know what's going to happen next, right? We got to do this.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
Go ahead.
You got a question for me?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Say it again.
I said, you have a question for me? I guess I'm on the big one. On the big
do I have a question for you? No,
Yeah.
no. Keep them coming at me. I'm all answers.
All right. But MMA would be the sport you'd like to cover, or do you, maybe?
Yeah, specifically, I mean, obviously that's what I love. So MMA would be ideal. But if other opportunities, present itself, I would obviously cross that bridge when I get there.
And it sounds like on-air talent, or are you a writer as well?
No, on-air talent. That's what I prefer.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite writers or commentators or anything like that, other than the ones you mentioned? Like, I guess writers is or how you go to a website or whatever and you like somebody's work. So like a blogger, a writer, or anything other than the ones you mentioned?
I mean, all of them are great. It would be awesome to have a podcast someday. I love what Ariel Helwani's doing with all of his stuff too and his shows. Obviously, you look up to Joe Rogan. I think that's fantastic. But specifically with commentary, and then if you want to look at women, Megan Levy is somebody that I really admire the work that she does and what I would like to do specifically as well.
Very cool. Yeah. No, you picked a good one there. I mean, she's done a great job.
She's
and
fantastic.
she's done many roles, all the way from, hosting. I know she's done some writing, and now she hosts.
Sanko's good too. Yeah, so there's a few good women that are out there, but obviously I want to focus on the fighting career. Something like that would be, years down the road when I'm done with fighting. I do want to be a mom one day. I'm 28 now, so got to look at kind of like a timeline of when I do want to start having kids and kind of that kind of transition into my life. So,
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's great. I think MMA journalism needs more women, and that goes for writers, on-air talent, hosts, all types of different jobs. It would be great, and then especially somebody who has martial arts training and somebody who's now like you competed, I think that would be great when you're ready, because for right now, ass kicking is the career, right?
I like that. That's right. Thank you.
All right. Well, listen, it was great to have you here on our show, and hopefully things go well for the rest of your camp. I know things are difficult because of COVID. Some things are opening up, but not. And I know you are all kind of walking on eggshells a little bit, but you got to get there healthy. That way you can perform. So best of luck with all that. Safe travels. And thank you for jumping on with us here for a few minutes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me, and I look forward to speaking to you guys sometime again soon.